Hi, Ms. Ling. Well, thank you for joining us. Certainly, it's a pleasure to have you and to have this very important discussion on a very important topic about diversity, about this month and why it's so important. So thanks for joining us and making time for us, for sure. And without any further ado, if you just want to say a couple of things about yourself, perhaps, then we can discuss why the enactment of the AAPI month is important, what it means. Just get your thoughts on it so our audience will understand and grasp
Sure.
the importance. Over
So
to you,
thank
please.
you, Mehmet. Margaret, please, not Miss Ling. It's okay. You can call me Margaret. Thank you so much for having me sit with you this morning. This is my family, the New York State Bar. I am the program chair for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion on the Real Property Committee. I'm on many bar associations, but was asked specifically to join this committee several years ago to try to make it more inclusive and to get other attorneys of color onto the committee. And I'm really kind of very happy that we are acknowledging AAPI month, which is very long to say it. So, but that is easier to say. It is Asian American and Native American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, which is for the whole month of May. Historically, it's not just a Hallmark holiday. Historically, it was in Congress in 1977, and it took a little while for Senator Daniel Inouye, who we used to see at a lot of events. He's from Hawaii with his lay on at the convention. And New York Representative Frank Horton was trying to introduce this resolution to recognize all of the trailblazing efforts of the people of Asian descent that have given to the United States. That was a couple of days in May, and quite nicely, Jimmy Carter came in the 70s. It was expanded to recognize proclamations, just to enforce it. And it probably took George Bush in 1992 to acknowledge it as an entire month of celebration, solidified by President Obama, that it would be a month, and just have the official name AAPI Heritage Month in 2009. And President Biden finally in 2021 was inclusive of the Native Hawaiians that also have contributed a lot to the history of the country. And you ask why May? And this is kind of close to me. Why May? Because May is when the first wave of, let me get this right, I don't want to misquote it. May is when it's the celebration of the first huge migration of Japanese into the United States. That would be May 7th, 1843. Closer to me because I'm fourth generation Chinese American. My parents, who were born in New York, always talked about our ancestors building the railroads out in the West, and they came, and that it was recognized May 10th, 1869. We call it Golden Spike Day, which marked the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, which merged the East and the West, and commerce and the ability to travel across the United States. Most of that was Chinese laborers, my ancestors. I was a little girl, and it's a little cute story. My grandfather was showing me if you ever, TV, they had long ponytails and little caps and his jacket, and he saved it from his grandfather. That's the only thing we had left of when he was building the railroads, because what they did sometimes, they either stayed, my grandfather had gone back to China, my great-great-grandfather, I guess, and then my grandfather then came back again. And interestingly, came in illegally. He jumped off an oil tanker in Galveston, Texas, and made his way up to New York. The grandfather on my father's side made it in legally through Ellis Island. So significant history, and I'm just so glad that we're able to talk about it and celebrate it this month.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds amazing, and obviously there's a lot packed in there. So with respect to its history, definitely, it goes way back. But as far as you think with respect to our legal profession, why is it important? If you can expand on that,
it is really important. And I actually pulled it up this morning. I'm a former board of director of the Asian American Bar Association, still very active. I've kind of gone mainstream the last 5 years. So I'm at New York State Bar, at the Diversity Committee for the ABA. Federal Judge Goodwin Liu and Yale Law School had done this portrait of the Asian American in the law, and it's still highly respected as a treatise to talk to how we do comprise like I live in Queens and 30% of the population is Asian. And unfortunately, there has been a drop in law school enrollment. Asians should be far more advanced in the legal profession. And obviously there are issues of the lack of diversity, equity, inclusion. And I know we only have too much time. Problem of dropout rates from the large firms because they're not making partner. We analyze why that is. And it's quite obvious. I openly talk about it. Our parents culturally, I'll say culturally, have always taught us to be quiet. Even my parents are born here in New York, taught me to be quiet. Speak up when it's important, but don't go babbling all the time. Very difficult when you're in law school. And I realized my first year of law school, I need to speak up. I'm going to miss a third of a point. I went to New York Law School and I sit on the board now. And it's interesting to talk to young students. They don't have so much Socratic method anymore. What I went through, I'm the class of 83. And I would get picked on all the time because my name is easy to remember. It's Ling. So instead of going to the other 200 something, they'd always pick on me. And then because I used to go home like, this is typical of what you told me in nursery school, I tell my parents, because it started in like nursery school. I'm like the first and the only one, the first Asian, the only one, stick out all the time. People say these things to you. And my parents were my father was a doctor, very educated. Take advantage of being the only one. You stick out, people will remember you. I'm like, yeah, right. Thank you so very much. But I feel like I'm in the line of fire all the time. That's why you wouldn't go to medical school like I wanted you to. We have many doctors in my family. 13 cousins, 3/4 are doctors. I think 2 of us are lawyers. My father has since passed away, would have been 108 years old and left this legacy. His 3 brothers also grew up in New York, Chinatown, went to Stuyvesant High School, and all went to medical school. And they wanted all of us to become doctors to help the community. But when I went to high school, I couldn't dissect my frog in biology in 10th grade. I came home and said, it's not working. Can't do this. I might have an A in bio, but no, I'm going to be horrified doing anatomy. I want to go to journalism school. And I felt I could help the community writing and interviewing. And their response as Asian parents, no daughter of ours is going to be like Connie Chung or running around the streets writing stories. We want you to go to law school to make a difference in the world. So there you go. That was my rooted beginnings. You don't oppose your parents. And that's how I became a lawyer, like at 16, and pushed it all forward. And you would think by now, and I say that because I still, trying to advocate for Asian attorneys, it's still really difficult. I'm in corporate America and I'm on the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee of every Fortune 500 corporation I've worked at. It's difficult because you have to teach all the colleagues, not just me, but all the people of color. So, keep in mind, this is AAPI month, but we work with what we call allies, which kind of escalated during COVID with George Floyd's matter. We all reached out to help one another. But with Asians, we're known to have imposter syndrome, which means we don't like to ask. We're very quiet, and then I have to say sometimes it's true. I'm the one in the office. I don't make a fuss. I'm the one that's there 6 a.m. in the morning. It's funny, Mehmet, you mentioned London. I was always was in charge of Great Britain and have to get to the office by 5 o'clock to do all the big real estate deals because you guys are 6 hours ahead of us, right? And they used to call me, go, Margaret, where have you been? Have you been doing high tea? I go, no, I just woke up. So that was when I was working in that position. There was no remote. I have to drive into Manhattan and be on the phone, 6 o'clock New York time, and they were already up and running. And I remember when it was funny because I guess it was the 4th of July and I had the day off, huge transactions in London, and they didn't understand why I had the day off. I go, you wouldn't understand. I could see the tension because it's July 4th, left over from the Declaration of Independence. But we're really quiet. I'm teaching the younger generation to speak up more, but to do it respectfully. That's how our parents taught us. But you definitely have to be, I'm a big proponent and a supporter of an American history major of Hamilton. You got to be in the room where it happens. But you not only have to be in the room where it happens, and that's part of diversity, equity, inclusion. That's the diversity. The inclusion, you need to engage. You can't just sit there at conference calls and say nothing. Can't sit in the Zoom room and just black out your windows. You need to engage and participate. And right now, that was the problem with a lot of the young lawyers in their positions. They weren't doing that. And the numbers weren't good. All right. So we're trying to work on teaching the young lawyers and people, even like myself, that we need to get it more involved. Okay. But we're always the ones. So I'm a real estate attorney. And because I've been doing it so long, I've been through every real estate recession since 1986. When things are bad, Mehmet, the Asian market is still fluid. It's still moving, okay? And I have really, probably 20 years ago, started speaking up. If you want the money, and you always come to, if you want the money, Margaret, I said, you have it, but you must respect the culture. Okay, but not only respect my culture as Chinese, within my culture, there's subcultures. I'm American born Chinese, I'm Cantonese from the southern region. There are, you could be from Beijing, you could be from Taiwan, you could be from Shanghai, you could be from like many villages. Everybody's got some different shade of nuances different. Then there are Korean people. Oh, you're not the same. No, we're not the same. Then there's Filipino, then there's Japanese. So part of AAPI month, hopefully within, and even with laws explaining to people that want all this business, if you want the clients, you need to understand us and you need to understand the difference. Japanese clients are very polite. Do not disregard that. I've had them since the 80s. They will be really offended if you don't follow the proper etiquette. And I tell people within the law, you lose one very good Japanese client, you lose their friends, because referral is important and they will let it out that you were disrespectful of the culture. And I've worked in some very big American companies that didn't take me seriously. And I brought in millions of dollars. And I ended up leaving to go to the next company that had a better understanding, that embraced it. And then they realized that when I left, and I said, I never made a fuss, I never asked for it. But there were times that I said, you need to understand the client. And that's just basic for being in legal. So what is nice now is that law firms, I think, are finally understanding that, because law firms, I'm an in-house counsel, they need revenue right now, not just because of this recession. It's a common fact with mergers in the legal profession and everything's going on. Asian clients bring in the money. Okay, so smart law firms are hiring Asian attorneys as the segment. I tell law firms, they come to you, the big ones, the clients will come to you, but they want an Asian attorney there. They feel comfortable with that, and then understand there's different dialects. I speak Cantonese, I don't speak Mandarin. And that's very important. If you want to stretch it, I worked for a big insurance company like 10 years ago. They had a Japanese division that was smart. It was sitting in Baskin Ridge, New Jersey, all the affluent Japanese clients that lived there. And they had specific customer service for that. So there is a business edge to Asians in the law that I always look at, because I sometimes get approached by people, we want money, that's why we want to hire you. And I'm like, well, that's very nice of you. I said, but I'm very, very dignified in the sense that it's like anybody else. You need to understand and be respectful of everybody's cultural roots. So
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
and absolutely. I mean, you raise a very good point. Obviously, in this global world, if you're working with international clients, they do want to have someone familiar to them, speak the language, understand the etiquette, just expect, and at least know the expectations. I do that all the time.
Exactly.
So it definitely is important from a client perspective, but also you said something interesting that stood out to me, and if I may just probe into that a little bit. You said that the dropout rates are high, and is that is that because of underappreciation and hopefully through the AAPI month?
It's interesting. I think it's I think because I had a couple of mentees that were playing, the cost of law school is so exorbitant. It's difficult. I mean, I was so happy. Two of my mentees, one went to Cornell. She got a full scholarship. It's interesting. She got a full scholarship to my school, New York Law School, but she's still not saying right away yes. And I said, you need to ponder the numbers. And I hate, comparable schools she got into, but not with the scholarship. It's a huge burden, even to go to college now, as you know. I went to Barnard. I don't like to talk about Columbia too much. We went through a lot of intensity the last couple of weeks. I'm on the board at Columbia. So, but yes, even there, but I'm trying to impart to my younger colleagues, if your child is intelligent and smart, they deserve that opportunity for their education. Your academic education will carry you through your whole life, and it's equally important. And lawyers, I tell them, you could even like I say, law school dropouts, some of them have asked me, we just want to go for an MBA, we want to work. I said, but did you get into law school? They said, yes. I said, you should consider either deferring or going, because it'll really make your resume. It will tell people that you're capable of many things. You may never practice law, but I impart to you to please pass the bar exam, because you're half done if you don't do that, okay? But it shows many people, because I know a lot of my friends, they never practice law, but it is a platform to show people how smart you are, how you can analyze, how you could be in intense situations and handle it. And I keep reminding the young attorneys, sometimes they look at me because I still work really hard. It's the best interest of your clients. It's not for you. I keep telling them, do you remember when you were in the appellate division and they swore you in? I said, but what sustains me, and I always, the law students, the 1L, the first year law students that I speak to, always, I said, what sustains me for all of these decades is because I'm passionate. I love what I do. I knew the minute I did it that I would be making a difference in society. And yes, I know she's not Asian, but I do admire Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The rule of law is a powerful thing, and it's here for the lawyers to enforce and to make a difference in the world.
100%. And I think just to add on to that, law is definitely an effective way to make change. And it needs to be diversified, our profession for sure, to make that change much more profound and make it more accessible to others, to a larger group of people. I mean by that.
What I've gotten is 3 more years after college, and I should tell them it goes really fast because I just was at the graduation, the pre-reception for like 15 mentees that I met 3 years ago. I can't believe they're 3Ls on the way out, on the way to the bar exam. And they just don't want, and I said, time really flies when you're having fun. I don't know if you think it's having fun, but I said, you could be going to med school and then you got 4 years because I'm in a doctor's family. Then you got fellowships and residencies. So, it's not that bad, but I tell them it's harder to do it after, to come back later. I had some people in my class that were in their 70s and it was quite challenging. I mean, I respect that they wanted to do that, but I said, get it under your belt now. You can. But people will look, oh my goodness, I do. When I see someone that inspires me, but they're not practicing lawyers, I go, look, they have a JD, look at that. But they transition to use that law degree to send the message of something they were really interested in. Of course, diversity, equity, inclusion, there has been a huge transition of many of my colleagues, many partners, litigators into the field. And I won't be negative about it, but we got hit by that that affirmative action decision last year. And a lot of corporations, sadly, have dissolved the DEI division. So that's another thing that, during AAPI Month, I try to impart to people, it's not the best thing to be doing. It's really important to sustain that, for the health and we talk about mental health during COVID, employees need to know that people care about them, so that's very, very important. So that's what we've been trying to hold down the DEI world is to tell people how important it is, not just it's many, and everybody knows how I speak about it quite often, at least once a week. It's not just race, it's everybody, it's everything. It's huge within the laws lately, disability law that people have ignored. People, it's anybody that's different. Okay. You need to respect that. So disability lawyers have had a hard time in the profession. We know of some that are AAPI disabled. So I always say I have a triple whammy all the time, Mehmet. You're gonna laugh. Okay, so I'm Asian, I'm a woman, I'm a baby boomer. I'm from a class of the 70s. So when I walk into rooms like the New York State Bar Real Property Committee, I'll walk into their annual conference of 600 people at the Hilton, and I'm the only Asian in the room. I get used to it after all these decades, but I certainly like to talk about this one. I like to change that a little bit. We need to change that. And people always ask me, why aren't there more? And it's very easy, like companies, why can't we get more? And it's because the Asian person doesn't feel embraced. They just, and that's the problem.
And that's so unfortunate in so many ways and on so many levels. But going back to maybe a bit more on the positive side of things, when we were talking about the AAPI month, obviously, who inspires you? Who's someone from the legal profession that you admire who comes to mind? Can you just tell us maybe one?
So there are several people actually that come to mind. I have not been able to meet him because he passed away a while ago, but I celebrate, it's a great event. We haven't included NISBA, but I do this at NYCLA where I chair the Real Property Committee and the Asia Practice Committee. We celebrate Han Yun Chang, and he's an interesting person. He's from the 1800s. So it's a collaborative event that I will have on June 13th at New York County Lawyers. He came from China, very wealthy family, went to Columbia, went to Phillips Exeter, all right, then went to Columbia Law School, then he graduated. It was, let me get the dates right, it was around the 1800s. All right, he began at Yale, then went on to Columbia Law School and graduated with honors in 1886, could not take the bar because of the Chinese Exclusion Act. They wouldn't let him, and so he had to get special legislation to get licensed in New York, but he wanted to so much go out to California to help the people out there because the huge, bigger Chinese population in the 1800s, like I said, the railroads. So this man goes out to California and they won't let him, they won't like it. He probably takes the bar, but they won't let him get admitted to the bar because again, of the Chinese Exclusion Act. And that's a pretty sad thing. He finally got his California bars a couple of years ago, 125 years after the fact. I believe someone in his family, took the honor. They finally realized this is a terrible thing. And he stayed the rest of his life in California without his license to practice law, helping in whatever way he could. And I just so admired his tenacity and still the desire to pursue law. He was admitted in New York, and we, Columbia Law School, of which I went to Barnard, one of the whole buildings is named after him as an example of a hard, immigrant that came in and the discrimination, but that we acknowledge him now. So we celebrate him every year during Asian Heritage Month, okay? And hopefully teach people, and because of all the great things that he did, he helped so much within the Bay Area community. And again, was not a licensed attorney, but his desire to apply that rule of law to help people, all right, was amazing. And he finally, as I said, finally got his bars 100-something years after his passing. So we use him, we start with him, okay? And we talk about Han Yun Chang. And we try to teach that to young lawyers to motivate them a little bit, that it was hard in the beginning. And, and unfortunately, we're still working on it, but there were Asian attorneys back in the 1800s. And then the second one, we're very proud of him at the New York State Bar, is Glenn Lau Key. He actually is my cousin, all right, we're cousins. And my first transaction in real estate as a private solo practice attorney was at his law firm. And I admired him from 1987 forward. I did a lot of closings in his office. His dad and my dad his dad was a Cub Scout and my dad was his Eagle Scout in Chinatown, like 1920. The families go way back. The two families were the founding families of New York Chinatown, his family and my family. So, I'm very proud of our heritage, and this is Manhattan, Chinatown. And because of what his dad did, Norman Lau Key, did so much. They started his office in Chinatown. There were no Chinese attorneys. Again, a trailblazer, the first and the only one. And I admire Glenn. He came out of Yale and Boston Law and worked for Kudare Brothers and actually came back to learn Chinese and worked at his dad's community law firm. And I admire that so much because that's what I did. I had job offers to go everywhere after my clerkship in the Southern District. And my parents kind of guided me and said, you should open a practice for the Chinese community, of which I did before I went in-house after 10 years. We were so excited when he became the first president of the New York State Bar. And he continues to be on the New York State Bar House of Delegates. I am so honored that I've been appointed to the House of Delegates this year. And I feel that is a momentous thing for me to be amazing. Driving up to Albany, and I'm very excited. And he retired, but he still serves on so many committees that certainly make a difference. As a conduit, I say sometimes I feel we're conduits to teach everybody about our AAPI community, to have us inclusive. But like I always use that Hamilton to give us room at the table, because certainly we have so much to share. Vincent Chang, who is at NYSBA, there were rumors, I heard that he might be coming up as president somewhere along the way. He is on the House of Delegates, he's on the executive committee, dear friend of mine, former president of the Asian American Bar. We call him a bar junkie because he's every bar you could imagine. He holds an illustrious position. He had put me down. He told me to come back to NYCLA. I was missing from NYCLA, for maybe 20 years. I was at the Asian American Bar. It was more comfortable for me to be at my own bar of color. And when he became the first president of NYCLA, he said, I need you at NYCLA to make a change. And I said, yes. And so I went down, I joined the board, and it was a little overwhelming the first time. It was COVID, 55 board of directors, and maybe me and Vince are the only Asians. And it's just that I was in awe of it because they're all amazing senior partners, federal judges. I mean, that board is, and I'm there on the board with them. And I had to just say to myself, okay, so I'm one of the few and the first only. So I feel like it's my duty, to make a difference. And it was AAPI month that this happened, the first meeting. And I probably have done so many things there. I had to take a break from the board, and they asked me to come back this year. So I'm back for 3 more years. But Vincent and I, and we're doing many great things. We're going to have Actually, and so now we're going to do something that I feel is very challenging, because bars are very insular. They like to hang on their own laurels and merits, which is that's okay, you know. So we're going to have, and maybe I can invite Richard Dick Lewis, and I know Dominic Napolitano of NISBA. We're going to have a joint Asian bar event and NYCLA for the young lawyers, and I thought that's a way for everyone to convene together. And I had the meeting, and you know, I think the problem with bar membership, we can get to that, is, and I know NISBA, we're working on that. Why don't we have as many, you know, Asian, I can talk on the Asian behalf, because again, they feel it's expensive. They feel, oh my goodness, is anyone going to know I'm there? And I'm trying to say, yes, we will know that you're coming. Okay, what can they do to help? And quite honestly, Mehmet, the young lawyers, they feel they don't need a bar association. I mean, I'm at 7 bars right now, and they feel, why should we spend the money? We can get on the internet. And I said, no, it's very special, right? You meet a lot of people that can really help you out. And we need you too. We need continuity. We want to really groom you for future leadership. We're not going to do this forever. And we would like for you to join and do many, many good things together as lawyers. I keep trying to remind them that they're lawyers. I don't know whether they don't like to talk about that sometimes. Okay.
Actually, they remember.
You know, somehow I have to remind them.
Idea.
So Vince is just so motivational, because I see him. I said, all right, if you can do all this, because sometimes they'll say, Margaret, can you take on this extra project? All right, I guess if you can do it, I can do it as well. You know, I'd asked him, I said, should I become more active in the ABA? And he said, and I said, they're asking me, but I actually prefer to be closer to home. And I'm excited. I've not really been I've not ever seen NISBA's Albany. I'm going up to the House of Delegates, and I'm really excited. I was speaking to Ernesto to see the headquarters. So that's, and the last one, because I want to make sure there's a woman. So the last one, believe it or not, is Congresswoman Grace Meng. And the reason why, and I know her personally, okay, and when I first met her a couple of years ago, she is my congresswoman in the 6th Congressional District, went to University of Michigan, Cardozo Law School, was our assemblywoman, all right, and very active. The minute she did it, I couldn't believe, really, you know, sometimes you see politicians, you can't even go near them when you see them at events, talking to everybody, rolling her sleeves up. You can call her office, there's a problem in the community. She then went in to fill Gary Ackerman's seat into Congress. And the first time I did get to meet her at the Asian bar, I actually said to her, and I hugged her, she knew who I was, which touched me, okay? But I guess that's because I'm in a lot of places. But I told her my law school essay, and I should have brought it with me, said I want to be the first Asian assemblywoman in the 25th District, Flushing Bayside. And it was 1978. And I have that essay. And I said, you are living my dream, girlfriend. I said, you are doing this amazing job. And she looked at me, I said, no, you have no idea. My parents are very active in politics, and they wanted me to run for office. It wasn't the right time. We were the only family. It wasn't going to happen. Of course, the demographics have changed in North Queens, and I still live in the same district. And she's just doing an amazing job. And I saw her at a gala last week. She ran past Chuck Schumer to say hello to me. I was felt honored that she wanted to see me first. And I said, keep doing what you're doing. She cares not only, but what's important is she really cares about the entire district. There are a lot of elderly, the original people, you know, I grew up in Flushing my whole life. My grandfather had the first Chinese restaurant in 1940 in Flushing. There were no other Chinese families, and my mother was the first Chinese baby born in 1937 Flushing Hospital. So I hear about what it was like to be the first family, not easy. So I've grown up there my whole life. And I've seen the demographic changes that, you know, in the 70s, there were no Asians. I was the only one in school. And now it's all Asian. It's pretty much Flushing when you come in. It's Korean, it's South Asian, it's Filipino, Chinese. And then Chinese, we have Taiwanese, all of this. And when she ran for office, interesting, she was worried she didn't win it. And she asked my advice. I said, no, you need to understand the existing population resents the Asians. So go and tell them it's going to be okay. The older Jewish citizens and the Irish and the Italians in Whitestone, who I all know because I've been there a long time. You need to go out and tell them that you will take care of everybody. And she's done it. She's just amazing. She has done the best that you could possibly imagine. And I'm just so proud of her. No doubt we feel someday, you know, she probably will succeed to senator when our two, Kirsten and Charles, retire. And then, you know, we'll have to see the next person that comes in. People have asked me, but I'm too old for that, Mehmet, to run for politics. This is one of my life.
No, you're not.
I like my quiet time.
No. I mean, that's a personal choice, but I don't think so.
So these people that I just mentioned, no, they do, in addition to Constance Baker Motley, who I clerked for in the Southern District in 1983. She had such diversity in a place that she became the first Afro-American chief judge of the Southern District. Other judges were not thrilled to have her as such. So her chambers was diversified. We would be her messengers and we would feel the tension, but a lot has changed. I've been back, I know Judge Denny Chin. He used to come in. I tell the stories as a young prosecutor fighting crime with a then Rudy Giuliani. This is 1983 with a full head of hair. He was the U.S. attorney. So all of these things have shaped my life, but my time in her chamber shaped me to be the lawyer that I am, to go out and care about the world. We are lawyers and we do earn a living. And I tell this to anyone that's around me, but you need that extra other thing to go out and make a difference in the world and use those skills that you've learned. That's very important.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point to conclude today's interview, if we may, unless you have any other things to add.
No, it's been wonderful spending time with you. Yes.
It was wonderful for me as well. It was great to get a chance to sit down with you, even if it's over the video, and hear your thoughts.
So technology is amazing, I say, right? It really is.
Indeed.
I love this.
Exactly. But I really appreciate your time and thank you.
Oh, you're so very welcome. It's an honor. And as I said, I've been a member of New York State Bar since like 1986. So I'm just so very glad that I could be more actively involved now as a member and members of committees, and now the House of Delegates.
People like you inspire me, so I'm inspired.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that.
We were like, we have our own society, okay? So we need to do good in the world. I really appreciate it.
Indeed.
Thank you so very much, and happy AAPI month to everybody. We love to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Margaret. Thanks for your time.